Hello everybody, this is Voodoo Magic, the retro Game-a-Holic, bringing you Game 3 between MRJobe and Fritz Ridnuewr. MRJobe is up 2-0 on Fritz, so, and this is not Fritz like the game program, the chess program. This is actually just a dude named Fritz. Strange name, I know, but hey, that's German people for you. So anyway, let's kick this off. MRJobe kicks it off with a move with his pawn. That's a pawn move, a really excellent move, by the way. Fritz Ridnuewr tries to play the quick Brazilian defense, going for a quick fianchetto and a castle, looks like right here. But MRJobe, he's not big on that kind of move, so what he does is he tries to kind of throw a wrench into things, as it were, and he throws a pawn right there. Now he goes ahead and continues. Actually, well, what he does is he actually takes that pawn with the bishop, with the knight, that is, and so you know, you have that kind of scenario going on. When MRJobe plays his pawn up to give his bishop some reign, he brings the bishop over, preparing to castle. MRJobe then, rather than moving the bishop up, he actually places a pawn right in front of the bishop. Well, the bishop could take the pawn but lose the bishop, and so now he's like out of whack. So he is forced to take his bishop backwards. So, well, in that vein, Marshall continues the pawn storm, bringing up another pawn, attacking both the bishop and the rook. And you know, he's at this point he's forced to take the pawn. He loses a piece, and now his rook's being attacked, and he has to slide over in order to keep from getting taken. And of course he couldn't castle through that, so now there's no castling on the king side for Fritz Ridnuewr. Excellent move by MRJobe. Now MRJobe decides to play another pawn up to secure the location where his pawn is. So Fritz really is very frustrated at this point. He decides to go ahead and start moving his pawn up. So he gives his bishop he gives his bishop some lane to attack at. Of course, he's got this one blocked, and this one's actually that one's okay because he was guarded by the knight. So we'll see what he does. We'll see what he does. Okay, so let's get back to the game. MRJobe decides that he needs to go ahead and start his attack. He's already taken one piece, and if he can start trimming down the other pieces of Fritz, then he'll be doing quite well. Well, Fritz sees this, and he says, well, you know, I don't want to lose it, but if he kicks back over here, he's just hampering development pretty much everywhere, but he doesn't want to lose another piece. But what can you do? So he decides to do an attack by himself. Of course, that's thwarted by the pawn move. So he's forced to move it back. Of course, MRJobe then, of course, attacks the piece and takes it, and he's retaken. But once again, MRJobe still has this wonderful, wonderful set of pawns here. So that's what we have so far. Now MRJobe is in the lead right now, quite significantly, but that wasn't good enough for him. What MRJobe decided to do is take his rook and move up on the back rank of Fritz Ridnuewr. This was devastating. There wasn't much he could do. If he takes it, then he's going to be retaken, and then there's going to be a check, and then he's going to take the queen. So really the only thing that Fritz could do is move his king. Now if he moves his king here, then he'll block the knight ability to come out, but maybe he'll just move his knight right here. But that gives MRJobe the ability to fork both the bishop and the knight. Well, anyway, let's see what happens. He goes ahead and moves it this way so I can get back into this direction. MRJobe then does play the rook over to take his rook, and is immediately taken by the queen. But the queen still has got nothing it can do here because the pawns are just backed up like crazy. Now at this point, MRJobe decides to really make it difficult for Fritz. He goes ahead and plays the 5-pawn attack. Well, as you can see, this is more devastating than anything he's done so far. So what does he do? He can't move here. He can't move there. He has to move back here or here. So he decides to move straight back. That way this piece can't come in and check him. Of course, MRJobe plays the pawn up and turns it into a queen. Well, if he moves this piece right here, it's instant checkmate. Well, not quite. But he doesn't have really much to do. MRJobe has dominated him this game, and Fritz is very frustrated. He's lost the first 2 games, and if he'll in this game, you'll see that he actually remembers some of the things he did to MRJobe to try to take advantage of MRJobe's. I'm going to call him MR or Job. I guess I can call him just Job. And take Job's approach to taking pieces. Well, he decides to do that now. He takes the queen and he retakes 2 of the pawns. So now it's MRJobe's turn. He goes ahead and takes the pawn, and of course it's quickly retaken by the king. Now, that wasn't really the best choice, but as you see, he pretty much had to do it because he was in check. But MRJobe then takes another piece, leaving him with 3. Now, MRJobe, the problem with MRJobe's whole setup, Job's setup, excuse me, is that all his pieces on the back rank, they're really not doing much for him, while these pieces are pretty much the same in the same scenario. So MRJobe, what does he do? He decides to take his bishop and move it up to attack the king, and now is where the harassment begins. Okay, so where does he move it? What's the good place? Well, he doesn't want to move on this rank. He doesn't want to move over next to his queen, so he goes ahead and moves his king out of the way. All right, so let's see if we get some normal moves now. Okay, so MRJobe prepares to bring the knight up, but he goes ahead and attacks that pawn to get himself a little pawn storm right here going. And he needs to do something about this pawn, but we'll see what he does later. MRJobe takes, of course, the knight to get 1 less piece on the board. However, this incites Fritz to go ahead and take out the pawn that was guarding this pawn. MRJobe immediately attacks the other pawn, and that pawn, but of course the queen comes down for that one. So what's really left to do here? I think this was probably the best move that MRJobe could have made at this particular point. He moves his queen up to attack the king. Well, the king is forced down. And of course, Job could not move his piece in this row because of the queen. So he checks that down, and now it's a very interesting scenario. MRJobe decides to protect his rook with his bishop, but that doesn't last very long as Fritz moves down his pawn to block that attack, or to block that protection, that is. Now, MRJobe comes up and goes ahead and takes that pawn and provides more protection, but that is now retaken by the pawn of Fritz's. Okay, so let's see what we got so far here. So it was taken by Fritz. Now he has it wide open. Okay, no, MRJobe, what he does not right now is he attacks the queen, protected by the rook, also protecting the rook at the same time. Now the problem here is if he does take the queen, he loses his queen, and now he has no more pieces. So he's really kind of forced to move. So he moves his queen back over here. MRJobe decides to get a preparatory move to be able to move his rook up for the attack. But reaching into his bag of tricks, really is kind of a copy of MRJobe, he decides to use a pawn to take both of the queen and the rook. So that was a good move. That was a very good move. Now MRJobe says, okay, well, if you're going to do that, I'm going to stack up some bishops lying straight up your queen. So that this is quite the amazing game. The tactics that MRJobe has employed over the years have done him quite a lot of justice, but people are starting to get a little wise to it. But he has to move his queen out of the way. So MRJobe then comes and, of course, then attacks the queen again. The queen decides to go down one, preparing to kill this piece if he ever has a chance. MRJobe decides to go ahead and move this bishop up to continue to protect, and also cut off some different moves from the queen. Well, the queen decides to take the bishops and move back into his position, but MRJobe didn't like that, so he stacks up rooks galore. Now that's attacking the queen, so he's got to do something about this attack. Well, he's able to take 2 of those rooks back, but then he has to deal with the fact that he loses his queen this direction. Now puts his king in check. Well, the king doesn't really want to go to the back rank right now because he's got these 2 rooks, and if he goes to the back rank, he loses, basically. So he moves this piece out here, and he protects himself with a whole array of pawns here. He's just kind of surrounding himself with pawns. This doesn't do that much since MRJobe decides to take his pawn and start eating up the pawns in succession. Like this. Now he does that, and he turns that one into a queen. So he put himself in quite a precarious position. He's about to get checkmated right here, so he has to do something. So he moves his pawn down to give himself an outlet. Well, here we go. Here's the attack. He moves this down, and we're going to be coming really close to the end now. Really close to the end. So he moves that down, and as a last final move, well, not final move, MRJobe plays the rook right here to attack him there, so he has nowhere to go up here. So now he has to move down. Well, just for the sake of sacrifice, since he has so many pieces, MRJobe takes the rook. Now he goes ahead and retakes it with the pawn. But the problem is that MRJobe then comes in for the 3 bishop attack. This is one of the craziest games I have ever witnessed, to be honest with you. Well, only 2 of them, of course, can be retaken by Fritz, but that is quickly met by a protection, a pawn to protect his bishop. Now his king is kind of stuck. Where can he go? He can't go up, can't go down, can't go sideways. So what happens here is that he moves up for the check, and he's forced to take. Then he's taken again, and he's forced to take. Now these are protected, mind you. So he can go here. That's pretty much the only place he can go. But MRJobe decides to put his queen into action. Well, what can he do? Well, he actually, we're getting close to the end of the game, believe it or not, but he decides to block those spaces from MRJobe, and MRJobe just ignores it. He takes both those pieces and comes down for what turns out to be checkmate. Right out of the blue. What a game. What a game. I mean, using ploys of that Jobe has introduced into chess over the last few months as he's gained prominence in chess. So I hope you enjoyed the dictation of this game. I hope you enjoyed the game. It's hilarious, and this is the kind of videos I've been making recently so that people can enjoy them. chess lovers, chess fans, all sorts of people, even people that know nothing about chess, would really like this, although the people not knowing anything about chess wouldn't realize all the bogus moves that were made during the game. So if you'll I'll take my leave from you right now. I hope you enjoyed this game. I hope to be seeing you all again very, very soon. Until then, bye-bye.